Why is it that so many of us find it difficult to keep a clean diet? Especially when we know that it makes us feel good, we feel energized, and we gain mental clarity from eating healthy food. In this video, I wanted to provide you with the tips I use to keep a clean diet. Okay, so the first topic that I wanted to talk about is the topic of counting calories. I was personally counting calories in the earlier part of this year, and I was actually not only counting calories but also counting macros, which means counting protein, carbohydrates, and fat. I did it with a very good intention because I just wanted to optimize. I was getting into a higher level of triathlon and I wanted to keep my body on the highest level possible. So I thought if I consumed the right amount of carbohydrates and protein and fat, that I would gain a net benefit in terms of my training and my mood and everything like that. The problem for me occurred when it got a bit too extreme. I was extremely fixated on the actual numbers, so I was determined to hit a certain amount of protein every single day and a certain amount of carbohydrates every single day, and so on and so on. And in my opinion, it can really up your game and you can benefit from this. But for me, it got too extreme in terms of social relationships. I was always counting calories also when I was at birthdays or get-togethers or everything like that. So I was extremely focused on what I ate all the time, which led to me not enjoying different social encounters as much as I else would have done, because food is such a big part of our social relationships. It really made it difficult for me to enjoy the social encounters as well as hitting the specific macronutrients that I wanted. So that is the reason why I stopped counting macros and calories again, because I felt like I was paying too high of a price to optimize my body. Another side point to this was that if I didn't hit the exact macros and screwed up, I just saw it as like the whole day was off, because I felt like, well, now I already screwed up, so why not go all in and just eat a ton of unhealthy food. And that led to me consuming extreme amounts of candy and things that I really didn't want to eat, but I was thinking like, okay, this is like my only chance to eat it, so I will just get as much in as possible before tomorrow, and then I will be back on track. As you can imagine, I didn't really get enjoyment out of eating all this candy. I really just got a lot of pain in my stomach. Another thing about counting calories is that I was also just fixated on the actual numbers and not the quality of the food. So I was happy if I just hit a certain amount of calories in the day, and I didn't care if it came from chocolate and candy and chips, or if it came from rice and pasta and meat and everything that I actually want to eat. So by stopping to count calories, I'm not so fixated on the actual numbers, and it is much easier for me to just choose the right food, because I think much more in quality of food instead of numbers and calories and how much energy it actually consumes. An important note about counting calories is that I really did gain a lot of knowledge about food. I think through counting calories, I gained a feel for what types of food that has a lot of energy and a lot of protein and carbohydrates, and I just got a general feel of what different types of food contains, which I find to be a extremely useful tool now, because I can still make informed decisions about how much energy I consume in a specific meal, but not being fixated on the numbers and being sort of a control freak about it. So my recommendation in terms of counting calories is that it should not be a permanent thing to do, but I gained a lot of knowledge and would therefore recommend that if you are interested in it, you could definitely do it for a short period of time and use it sort of as a research tool to gain knowledge about food and nutrition and what types of food that has different macros in it, and then just put it on the shelf afterwards. Then you have just gained a lot of valuable knowledge. At least that was what I did. Okay, so the second thing that I wanted to talk about is actually pretty related to the topic of counting calories. And that is that I actually just like eating healthy food. I really enjoy how it makes me feel, and I do generally have a lot more energy throughout the day if I just keep a clean diet. It is really as simple as that. So the second tip I use to keep a clean diet is that I just have the mindset of a person that likes eating healthy food. It is in my world as simple as that, because I just tell myself that I enjoy eating healthy food. And if you tell yourself something and truly believe it, I think that it becomes your reality. So when I'm telling myself that I enjoy healthy foods, I enjoy healthy foods. I know this tip can seem a bit strange to some people, but in my world, this is one of the most important things about my approach to diet, because I generally just make my own reality the fact that I enjoy healthy food, and I do enjoy healthy food. Another thing that I wanted to add to this is that I heard in a podcast, I can't remember the specific one, that it takes about 3 months for your taste buds to return to the state where they actually enjoy healthy food if they have been used to a highly processed and highly sugary diet. So if you can manage to actually tell yourself that you enjoy healthy food and keep a clean diet for those 3 months, your actual physiology will change and you will become a person that likes healthy food. The third strategy that I use to keep a clean diet is that I think about food in terms of fueling my training. This means that when I choose what foods I want to eat, I choose it in terms of what I want to consume before, during, or after my training. This really helps me keep a clean diet because I make food choices in terms of what fuel that is best for my training, instead of just searching for dopamine in different food choices. I also find it much easier to make the right choice in terms of food choices when I think about fueling for my training, because I just evaluate the consequences of different foods, and I really just don't want to eat a giant piece of cake right before I go out for a run, because the consequence would be that I would just have a lot of pain in my stomach during the whole run. So by imagining the specific consequences of certain foods, I find it much easier to make the right choice. The next point I wanted to make is that I just limit the certain food options that I have at home. This way I just set myself up to succeed instead of setting myself up to eating unhealthy food. So when I'm out buying groceries, I try to think of the specific consequence of a certain food before I buy it. And this is very important for me because I know if I buy a certain type of food, I'm going to eat it, whether or not it is a healthy kind of food or unhealthy kind of food. So by making the choice and actually only buying healthy food and putting it in my home, I only have one choice, and that is to eat healthy food. So I actually just make it much easier for myself to be successful in terms of eating healthy by just providing one option. By me filling up the fridge with fruit and vegetables, that is what I'm going to eat. But if I fill the freezer up with ice cream, I'm definitely going for the ice cream. So this is a very important tip for me, to just buy the right things at the grocery store, and then I just don't have to struggle when I crave a specific type of food when I'm at home. Another point that makes it much easier for me to keep a clean diet is that I just eat the same things. For example, for breakfast, I always just eat oatmeal and an omelette with tuna. So for me, by eating the right food, I don't have to overcome the challenge of eating the right food, because in a certain way, I'm actually not making a choice. I just do what I always do. And I know that is kind of a choice, but I hope you get the point. My tip is that just find what works for you and what you enjoy eating, and then just keep enjoy eating that. There is without a doubt a specific healthy food that you really enjoy, so why not just keep eating that? I know a lot of people say that it gets boring eating the same thing and on and on. So if you have that opinion, I would definitely just recommend trying to have certain periods with certain foods. So eating the same food for like a week and then changing it, and then you can go back and forth, but it still provides the benefit of you not having to make a specific choice of eating the right thing every single morning. So for me at least, one of the most important things is that I just found what I like and then I just stick to it. This next strategy is actually a fairly recent strategy that I have just begun using, but I found a lot of success by incorporating snacks throughout the day. Beforehand, I had some kind of idea that I only wanted to eat 3 or 4 meals per day and nothing more or nothing less, which maybe had something to do with the calorie counting and control freak behavior. But anyhow, I did have an idea that I only wanted to eat 3 or 4 meals every single day, despite what I did. But by giving myself permission to eat snacks whenever I feel like I need it, I've really gained a lot of easy control over my diet. Before I used snacks throughout the day, I was having these certain meals and I was definitely eating a lot of food at these particular points of the day. This was because I knew I only had these 3 or 4 meals throughout the day, so I had to get all my energy through these meals. And because I am a fairly active person, I had to get a lot of energy in these meals to not be super skinny. So every time I was eating a meal, I was eating huge amounts of food. I was really stuffing my stomach to maximum capacity. And even though that I got bloated and felt extremely heavy, I still got a lot of dopamine release from these huge meals. I really tricked my brain into liking this type of overconsumption. So by me incorporating snacks throughout the day, I found that I don't necessarily need to fill up my plate to 100% if I don't feel like it. Because now that my brain knows that if I feel hungry in 1 or 2 hours, I can just have a little snack, I'm not forcing myself to eat all the food throughout the day at specific points, which really have improved my relationship to how I eat my bigger meals. And in terms of the specific snacks that I eat, I generally just focus on eating snacks that are high in protein or high in fat because I find them to make me feel much more satiated, and I don't find myself craving anymore when I just have a high protein or high fatty snack, at least compared to carbohydrates, because I feel like if I snack on a specific type of carbohydrate snack, I don't feel as satiated and I could definitely go for one more. So by keeping my focus on protein and fat in my snacking period, I have found it much easier to not overeat on my main meals of the day. The last thing that I wanted to point out in this video is that I found it much easier to keep a clean diet by not being too hard on myself. By this I mean if I want a certain type of food, I'm probably just going to eat it, and by not restricting myself to certain kinds of food, I find it much easier to eating healthy food because that is generally what I want to eat. So I'm not really ever in a situation where I get mad at myself because I screw up because I don't think that there's foods that I don't want to eat. There is definitely foods that I want to eat way more of compared to other types of foods. But I'm definitely going to eat things like candy or ice creams here and there. I think that is just part of the human experience, and what a boring life it would be if you could not ever have a piece of candy or a ice cream. I know that I gain a lot of quality of life by giving myself permission to have ice cream with my family or go out to restaurants and enjoying nice food. I'm just not doing it every single day. But doing it here and there is definitely something that I want to participate in. I believe that by enjoying food and being interested in food, I find myself to search for very minimally processed foods because I just enjoy making dish by myself instead of buying the finished product, which by automation makes me buy those healthy and clean food options that I actually want to consume. Okay, so I hope you found this video valuable and could at least use some of the tips that I provided. If you did, please hit the like button. It really helps out the channel. On top of that, if you have any questions, comments or suggestions, please leave them down below. And besides that, I just want to wish you all a great rest of the day. Take care.